You've probably seen it before. A group of performers gets on stage, and right in front of you, they create an entire musical. Songs, jokes, harmonies, all of it, just out of thin air. It feels like absolute magic, totally impossible. But what if I told you there's a secret system underneath it all? A hidden architecture that actually makes it work. Okay, let's get into it.
So that's the big question, right? It just seems impossible. How do you juggle the story, the music, and the comedy all at the same time without a script, with no score, and somehow not have it all just completely fall apart? Well, the answer, it's kind of surprising.
Believe it or not, it all comes down to the number 3. See, at any given moment, an improviser isn't just doing one job. They're actually wrestling with 3 totally different brains inside their head, and they're all fighting for the spotlight.
Yeah, think of it like a triple helix. First, you've got the narrative brain, which is trying its best to tell a story that actually makes sense. Then there's the musical brain, which is desperately trying to follow the rules of rhythm, rhyme, and melody. And finally, you have the comedy brain, whose main job is to break all the rules and do something surprising. It's this constant internal 3-way tug-of-war.
And this internal battle is what creates the central conflict of the whole art form. It's this high-stakes, real-time struggle between the forces of order and the beautiful, hilarious pull of total chaos.
Think about it. Music, at its core, loves order. It's built on patterns, predictable structures, harmony. It wants to be beautiful and stable. Comedy, though, it's the total opposite. It's an agent of chaos. It gets its power from surprise, from subverting what you expect, from disrupting everything.
And this quote just nails that core tension. You have these 2 powerful, opposing forces. One is all about logic and structure. The other is totally wild and disruptive. The absolute genius of musical comedy is getting them to dance together instead of just tearing each other apart.
So let's make this super clear with an example we can follow. Imagine a big, tough, fearsome pirate on stage. The music gives him this powerful, structured sea shanty. That's your order. But then the comedy kicks in and it introduces chaos. The lyrics reveal that this tough guy is completely, utterly terrified of parrots. And it's that clash right there. That's where the magic starts.
So how on earth do they manage this constant conflict in real time? Well, they're not just winging it. They rely on a toolkit, a set of 4 key principles that helps them navigate the chaos. Let's call them the 4 pillars of genius.
First up is symmetry. This is all about the structure. For music, it's the predictable rhyme schemes, or 4-bar phrases. For comedy, it's that classic rule of 3. Setup, punchline. Symmetry basically builds this strong, predictable cage, which makes it so much more satisfying when the chaotic comedy beast inside starts rattling the bar. Next, we have unity. You've probably heard of yes and in improv, right? Well, this is like that, but on steroids. Everyone on that stage has to instantly buy into the same reality. So if our pirate sings about his parrot phobia, the whole crew, right then and there, has to believe it and react to it. It's this shared agreement that stops the whole thing from shattering into a million different ideas.
Pillar number 3 is balance, and this one's super practical. It's the art of not stepping on each other's toes, sonically. The musician knows to get quiet so a punchline can land. The singer knows to belt it out over a big, swelling chord. It's all about listening and constantly adjusting to make sure every single piece, the music, the words, the joke, gets its moment.
And finally, we have paradox. This is the engine. This is what makes it funny. It's the friction you get when you smash 2 ideas together that just shouldn't mix. A tough-as-nails pirate singing a really vulnerable song. A huge, epic orchestra playing a song about a tiny, silly problem. That clash, that incompatibility, that's what creates the spark of humor.
Okay, so even with these 4 pillars, that is a ton of stuff to juggle in your head. The cognitive load is just insane. So, how do they do it? Honestly, they cheat. They use these preloaded mental shortcuts, or archetypes, that they've borrowed from hundreds of years of musical theater history.
A perfect example of this is the I Want song. You know this song. Every Disney movie has one. It's that moment where the hero stands in the spotlight and sings their heart out about their deepest desire. It's the perfect shortcut to tell the audience exactly what a character is all about.
Now here's the brilliant trick. In a classic musical, the I Want song is super sincere and hopeful. But the comedic version, it takes that same grand, soaring, epic music and applies it to something totally ridiculous. Our pirate isn't singing for love or freedom, he's singing with all the passion in the world about how he really wants to avoid parrots. The comedy comes directly from that huge gap between the grand music and the silly lyrics.
And this is just one tool in their toolbox. They've got a whole library of these things. The classic villain song becomes a way to reveal some pathetic hidden weakness. The list song turns into a machine gun of rapid-fire absurd ideas. Each one of these archetypes gives them a pre-built structure, which frees up their brain to just focus on being funny.
So, what happens when all of this, the pillars, the archetypes, this whole battle between order and chaos, what happens when it all just clicks? Well, that's when you get a moment of pure, almost transcendent creation, where those three competing brains finally stop fighting and become one.
They call this the showstopper. It's that incredible moment in a show that feels both completely spontaneous and perfectly written at the same time. The music, the story, and the comedy all weave together so perfectly that you just can't see the seams anymore.
And what's so cool is how it feels for us, the audience. You're no longer thinking, oh, that was a good rhyme, or hey, that was a funny joke. You're just swept up. Your analytical brain just shuts off, and you're fully present in this amazing, holistic moment.
Now, there's a fancy scientific term for this state, but let's just call it what it feels like: group flow. It's when that part of your brain that's responsible for self-criticism and overthinking just goes quiet. The performers aren't thinking about what to do next, they're just doing it. Creation just happens.
Okay, this framework is obviously a game changer for performers. But here's the thing, the core ideas we've been talking about, they have a relevance that goes way beyond the stage.
When you really boil it all down, musical comedy teaches us this one really powerful lesson. Chaos isn't something you have to crush or run away from. Instead, if you can give your chaotic thoughts or fears or frustrations a clear structure, like the rules of a song, you can actually transform them into something that makes sense, something meaningful, and maybe even something beautiful.
The whole philosophy is really built on this idea of radical agreement, just on different levels. First, everybody agrees on the reality of the scene. Then, they agree on the shared structure of the music. And finally, they agree to find the joy, that shared laugh inside that framework. It's an incredible model for working together.
And that leaves us with this final thought. We've seen how these performers use these principles to manage unbelievable complexity, live on stage. It just makes you wonder, if they can create such amazing harmony from the chaos of three competing brains, what other kinds of chaos in our jobs, in our relationships, or even just in our own heads could we transform if we just gave them the right kind of structure?